All right, what up, guys? Welcome to a new video. We have the two co-founders of DreamWorld here, and we have Zachary Kaplan, who is the Chief Creative Officer, and Garrison Bellack, who is the CEO. A little bit of background between the two of them. Garrison here, he has been working for Google, Facebook, and for Apple for several years, working more on their data infrastructure as well as their communications and computing aspects of their companies, more towards the engineering side.
No, so completely on the engineering side.
Completely on the engineering side.
Specifically, I worked on the servers at Google, and then I worked on massive drones to build or to send internet to third world countries at Facebook, which is as ridiculous as it sounds. Project Tequila, it was shut down 2 years ago. Then I was at Apple and I worked on the iPhone X. And then I worked for GM Cruise where I built self-driving cars.
I think you said Project Tequila, Project Aquila.
And then we have Zachary Kaplan here, who has been a lot of marketing and designing of websites.
Marketing, product design. I used to do a lot of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript website design, and tried a hardware product starting when I was 17 years old. It turned out to be very hard, as they say. And so
I told him so.
He did tell me so. And now we're on DreamWorld.
Nice. So we have a bunch of questions here that have really kind of been burning on a lot of people's minds, and we're gonna kind of go over some of these questions, and maybe some other questions will stem off of these. But we'll go ahead and start with this first question. It says, out of all the games you have made, why choose DreamWorld as the game you wanted to choose?
Ooh, so why DreamWorld? The short answer is because it's the game that we wanted to play ourselves. The longer answer is for more than a decade, probably since, I mean, we've talked about like since practically before we could walk. We were playing World of Warcraft and Fable and Minecraft more recently and Second Life. And so all these games just gave us huge amounts of inspirations and mountains of love in our lives. And we saw faults in them. We saw aspirations in them, and so we want to take those aspirations and fix the faults we saw and build the game that we've always wanted to play.
He's my best friend. He talked me into it. That's what happened.
So with all those different types of games you wanted to put in, like what aspects of those games makes DreamWorld unique as opposed to, say, like Second Life or any other type of open world sandbox game? Because that's what DreamWorld is like, basically an open world sandbox game, correct?
Right. So DreamWorld is an open world sandbox with a lot of people, essentially. And so like Minecraft, one of the things that we loved about Minecraft was the ability to build anything that you could imagine. Unfortunately, it was just all out of cubes. And so what we wanted to do was build anything we could imagine, just out of 3D objects. Which is one
of the things that I really like about this game.
Yeah, the fully deformable land.
Yeah, dude, you're incredible at it.
Yeah, you're actually...
It's amazing.
Yeah, so it's funny because Zach is very skilled and you're also very skilled.
I'm not as skilled as Steve.
I am like the least creative person ever. I am just an engineer. I'm incredibly logical. So like, you don't want to see any of my buildings. They're really bad.
Right. So what aspects of DreamWorld makes it uniquely different from other types of open world games?
Yeah, so there's Minecraft and there are a couple of other games that allow you to place models, but it's not the core aspect of gameplay. And so for us, being able to go and, like I say in the video, if you see something that you want to change in the world, you can change it permanently. Anything. If you want to go chop down a tree, if you want to dig grass or dirt, if you want to mine stone, and make the terraforming that you do around the world into a permanent fixture that tons of other people hopefully will see next, and hopefully find inspiration in themselves. You can go and do that, and you can't really do that in any other game except for in Minecraft, and Minecraft's out of cubes. That's, I think, the biggest difference between us and other games that are out there currently.
Okay. So basically you want to make it so you want to have a good graphic type Minecraft aspect of the game. Is there anything else that makes this game a little bit different from Minecraft per se, other than the graphics?
Yeah. So in addition to just 15 years better of graphics and gameplay, we really think our focus on a single global game world. You know, you look at Minecraft, and yes, there are multiplayer Minecraft servers, but the majority of gameplay people experience is single player. But again, like, we draw a lot of inspiration from it. So picture it made 15 years later, better building experience, far better graphics, etc. And then we think actually that type of building and creative experience is done far better in a MMO setting. And so those are kind of the key differentiators.
Okay. So you talk about like how you want to have like a ton of people in there. I think in your Kickstarter you mentioned how you wanted to have like millions, of possibility of having millions of people in there. Currently we know that a lot of games have a really hard time getting, you know, thousands, if not some people can get hundreds of thousands, but the problem with that is we end up having too much information, right? And the servers can't handle it. So it's not the fact that people can't connect, it's the fact that there's only so much information that can fly through a fiber optic line, per se. How do you say that you're able to create a system that allows that to be mitigated? How does that work?
Yeah, so the answer is essentially you try and run everything as much as possible on the various clients. You know, you take something like placing a block. You simplify that down to an enum that's actually quite small. And then if you further optimize based off of like location and visibility, etc., you can actually cut down the information that's being sent to all the other players. This is like drastically different from how like League of Legends or Call of Duty and all these type of games work that have a centralized server model where essentially the clients say like, oh, I left clicked, that gets sent up to the server. Then the server makes all the decisions. Okay, this person shot that person first. And then it sends down to all the clients. This one died, this one won, or something like that. Ours actually works more like DreamWorld has a bunch of parallel dimensions, and then all those dimensions synchronize over time by sending as little information as possible to each other, if that makes sense.
Okay, so essentially you as the player would have zero latency because you're the one that's all the processing is on your own computer, correct?
It depends. So if it's a single player feature, as long as your computer is good enough, yes. Like if there's something like you're trying to turn up the graphical settings to ultra and you're running on a Chromebook, this isn't a networking issue at all. It's just not going to happen.
Right.
And you're going to lag out your own game.
Right.
If it's a multiplayer feature, let's say you know, someone else is running around and you have a horrible network connection or something, then you could get issues with them lagging and you kind of lagging to everyone else because you know, your you know, router is from 10 years ago or something like that. So it's not perfect. It doesn't solve all latency issues, but yes, it does solve a good portion of the gameplay for latency because it takes the internet out of a good portion of it, if that makes sense.
Okay. You did mention like most of the computing or the information is going to be generated on the side of the user. We've seen that in the past with a few games where they've had that and then they upload just a little bit of information to the actual server, and we've noticed a lot of people have been able to manipulate that. to be able to basically, you know, allow them to fly 5,000 feet in the air, even though everyone else only sees them on the ground. Is there any way of like combating like people modifying information on their side and then redistributing it back to the server to look like it's legit?
Yeah, so this is actually a very common networking problem. In fact, the entire internet has this exact issue.
Right.
Is like, I can't actually see the other person on the other side. Like, how do you solve it? And the current way that this is solved is that you cryptographically sign the code in the application that's being run. And then there's a certificate that the clients have that's a public and private key pair that since we both send out the clients and we have the server, we can kind of embed these certificates on both sides. And, you know, the server and client like double checks like, oh yeah, you have the secret passphrase, you can think of it. So I know you're legitimate, not,
Okay.
you know, some random person spamming over the network traffic.
Okay. So let's change it a little bit. I think that pretty much answers those questions. So we're talking about the game here, and the current state of the game. We know that it's in a pre-alpha state, and it's pretty limited. What can we expect to be implemented on the opening day of alpha testing once the Kickstarter is done in April, May time period?
Yeah, so it really comes down to like how quickly do we send it out to players versus you know, do we want to build more before it comes out in May? We have actually been debating what features we think are like the S tier features that like must be in before alpha. Like some of the ideas we were discussing is like doing away with our current player model, which is a ball, which is hilarious, but like obviously we're gonna move to humanoids there. Wolf thinks you know, we want to have a huge thank you to all of our Kickstarter backers. So the DreamWorld Pantheon with everyone's names needs to be in there. And then setting up the city with everyone's property is also another really cool thing. And kind of along with that, controlling what areas are, you know, the Wild West of being a sandbox and what's a little more civilized.
Right.
I think the key to understand is like, this is not something where it's like upfront. If you're joining us for the alpha, like what you should be excited for is not what you get on day 1, but it's the fact on day 7, day 14, day 21, day 28, we are literally releasing an update and just nonstop rolling out new features, content, bug fixes. Like, this is not a polished game, but like, if you want to be part of the development process, if you literally want to be like, Grit, I want you to go build this thing this week, like, I will go build it.
Yeah.
So, you know, really, you guys get to kind of steer the wheel. You know, if you're looking for like something that's, you know, multiple years in development, super polished, like, that's not what we are currently.
Come back in a few years.
Yeah, exactly.
I think,
but like, if you want to get like a firsthand experience of what game development is like and get updates every week and talk to the devs whenever you want, like, if you think that sounds cool, then like, yeah, come join.
yeah, I think that's what a lot of people kind of expect, is that the first part, right, where they want a fully functional game like right off the bat. And I think that is something that I guess wasn't portrayed, I guess, and people didn't quite understand it very well. So like what you said is actually really important. So like, this was mainly for, you know, like, you can ride the whole journey with us type thing, instead of, look, we already have this fully polished game, we're putting it out, we just need some more support to, you know, work out some kinks. So that's what does the roadmap look like? And will you make it public for everyone to see like what's coming up? Like,
Yeah,
are you
so-
gonna have like a list of like, this is what's coming up in the next patch, or this is what's coming up this month, or like, these are concept limbo type of situations, like things that like
We have
eventually will happen?
Yeah, concept limbo. We have a log, and we have a backlog, and we have a backlog's backlog. So, yeah, I mean, we've already made what our general roadmap for the next 6 months or so is. That's the video. Everything you see in the video is what we're going to be working on in the near future. So
yeah, some of those are already implemented,
Right.
the deformable world, the cutting down trees, etc. But like that was actually the reason why the video is called the alpha trailer.
Right.
And people are signing up to join the alpha is because that video is the next 6 months of development.
Right.
You know, we have the deformable world, we have the building, etc. Like I'm super excited for mobs because I'm not a creative player. I like whacking stuff. You know, I'm super interested in the social aspect, and that's already there to a certain extent through Discord. But you know, that's what the video was about. It was our visual roadmap.
Right.
Okay.
And I think one of the things that we probably should have added to the Kickstarter, but it was on the video itself on YouTube, which I think has like 8,000 views now, was the future of DreamWorld.
Yeah,
It's
we
literally called the
also
Alpha Trailer,
we
the
go
future of
into this
DreamWorld.
in the where we're at, where we're going in the next 6 months, and the future section. So it is literally written right there in the Kickstarter, but like
people, I guess,
don't scroll down.
They don't scroll down far enough. Some people didn't even know there's a Discord link in there, so
What?
Whoa.
The Discord's at the top. Anyway.
some of the questions were like, I can't even find like, oh, what? There's a Discord. So yeah, people have been helping them get there. But yeah, there's a Discord, guys. The Discord's down in the description down below. So feel free to jump in and ask any other questions. We still have a lot more questions here to go. We have another question here. It says, this one has to do with like money wise. Okay, this is a huge thing that a lot of people have been having issues with. So hopefully we can maybe we can clear some things up. But you know, we've talked a little bit outside of, you know, YouTube and outside of Twitch and stuff. So I kind of want to get on record, what you have. You said you have investors outside of Kickstarter, right? So how much have you raised from some of those investors? How much do you they're concrete, you already have that funding set?
Yeah, we have 650,000 raised so far. We started fundraising a week and a half ago, and then we're going. I should take a little bit of a step back. So we are a startup. We are part of the Y-combinator program, which is the startup accelerator. It has a 1.5% acceptance rate, which is harder to get into than pretty much nearly any university you could think of. So how the financials of a startup work, if you're not familiar, is Y-combinator invests 7% for 125K, and then that's your pre-seed capital, and then 6 months to a year later you raise your seed round, which is a couple $1 million, and then really you work for 2 years, and then you try and raise Series A. Depending on the money you need, you can do a B or a C or whatever. More hardware focused companies do that, and then fingers crossed at some point you IPO in your Roblox if everything goes well, or things you weren't able to pull off the product or get people engaged. That's kind of the startup life.
Okay, so are you able to talk about who your investors are? Is that kind of
it's
not
a little bit taboo, because it's not they so I can talk at a little bit of a high level. So we have one of the co-founders of Twitch. We have a senior VP at Google. We have a lot of family and friends. We have a bunch of Y-combinator alumni that also are now kind of investors. They retired as entrepreneurs and then they invest. And then we have other gaming executives.
Okay, so you do have some actually really high names, or like a lot of really like high ranking, people that are actually investing in this.
Yeah, I'd recommend looking up Y-combinator to kind of understand more about the startup ecosystem, but it does a really good job connecting you with investors.
Okay. Do you have any like future investors that you might be looking in towards in the next, couple of months to get past? Because you said you wanted. I think
Are
you
you
said like what, 6
interested,
months.
Ski?
Like,
Yeah.
am I interested? Not with my amount of money I'm making, but I mean, like, what are you kind of like planning on for like the next year? Like, what is your kind of like target goal to get for investments?
So actually, you go through periods of investment followed by product development. And so our hope is to be done fundraising in the next couple of weeks. And then like we are faced to the grindstone for
2 years. Maybe
2
more.
years. Currently we have a team of 3. We're going to be growing to 10. And then it's just our job to make something phenomenal that, our players really like.
Okay. So basically for this starting money or seed money that you have is basically what's going to set you up for the next 2 years is kind of what we're looking at then.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. So you said you wanted to have like right now you only have 3 employees, but you're going to be going to 10. What's kind of the timeline on like when those 10 are hopefully to be starting? Is that like before the alpha starts, or like it's like the next month or 2, or?
So we have the first couple of people we would love to get on board, and we're going to be reaching out to them over the next couple of weeks. And then we're going to be doing some outreach for kind of growing the team as a whole. But you don't want to like overgrow the team. In my experience, getting the right people is a lot more important than just getting volume of people.
Correct,
So
yeah.
it really depends, like if the people we have on mind want to join immediately, some of them will come over time. And then there's also going to be people like we meet later that are incredibly impressive, and we're going to, really want them to join the dream team. So, I think it's a balancing act. We definitely want to ramp up the team, but we don't want to be desperate. We want to make sure that we really love everyone that we pull on board here.
And I'm assuming one of them is definitely going to be a graphic designer. Okay. Because I think that is going to play a huge key into like the way the game actually looks.
100%.
Yeah.
Okay. So after you have all of these employees paid in, what are you gonna do with the leftover investments? Like, is it gonna be used for more promoting, for like marketing? Because I know marketing is very, very expensive.
Yeah, I would say the most expensive thing is people.
Right. Well, yeah. 10 people, you're gonna
so-
pay them anywhere from like 75 to 150,000 for developers.
Yeah, so like it really depends how just the like are we able to get the company to profitability, for example? What's the timeline for that? 10 people is not the future of what we want the company to be.
Of course, right.
We want to definitely go
yeah.
past that. So it's really a balancing act between revenue and salary, if that makes sense. It's not like there's like leftover money.
Right.
But like if there's like leftover money, that means like awesome, we get another developer and we get out features to all of you guys like that much faster. That's kind of how that goes.
So basically, if you had leftover money, then it would be to get someone else to make it move faster. It wouldn't be used for
100%.
like your own pockets.
Like, you look at like Amazon, and they what are they, like just became profitable or something a couple
YouTube
years ago?
is still not profitable.
Yeah, so you pretty much just you continually reinvest to try and grow the company, make the product better, etc.
Okay. So along the lines of investments, you've already raised, hundreds of thousands of dollars. Why do you need a Kickstarter?
So the reason why we're on Kickstarter is building community, and we just want to bring as many gamers who are passionate about the thing that we're trying to build along for the adventure as possible. And so I think that's the short of why Kickstarter. And we thought that it was going to be an awesome platform to get in front of the people who would love DreamWorld maybe most. So that's why we're there.
Yeah, I mean, there's a side note where, like, I mean, so far we've been able to raise like 50K on Kickstarter in the last 3 days. Like, that is a lot.
Yeah.
If we get to like 150, like that's
developer.
another team
Yeah.
member.
Right.
And, you know, having a sixth person instead of just 5, if that's the right type of person, makes a huge difference. Like, that's the difference between having PvP or not having PvP, or getting the biome system implemented, or, you know, like,
Within a certain amount of time.
yeah, I mean,
Right.
we're going to be working on it, but you know, the difference is actually very impactful.
Okay, so like I think a lot of people were thinking that the only investment was Kickstarter, so I think that's why a lot of people were kind of put off. I think is because they think the Kickstarter was what was going to be supplying you guys.
The
And everyone-
Kickstarter is more about, like, 1, can we get enough on there to get 1 additional team member? And 2, the most important thing is growing the community.
Right.
We had this like hardcore group of players that had been with us every week for like the last 7 months, and they're amazing.
They're
You
incredible.
should talk to them in the Discord. But you know, it was like a couple hundred, and like our vision for this, it goes far beyond that. And so we kind of wanted to just grow the player base as a whole.
And I mean, to add to that, it's already working. And so this is exactly why we wanted to make a Kickstarter.
Yeah, I think there's
I think around 2,000 people in there now.
Yeah, something like that.
And it's like the chat is almost never dead now, and it's a lot to keep up with.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun.
It's also a really good place, guys, to go if you have any questions additional to the ones that we're asking here.
Please come. I will probably be the one responding to you pretty much 24/7. I woke up at 6 a.m. today and started responding to comments, and I will probably go to sleep at 12 tonight responding to comments.
Oh, jeez. So little change
Yeah,
on
as much as some of this sounds really great and envious,
Yeah.
there's a lot of double-edged swords.
I don't know if you can see the redness in my
we
eyes.
work 7 days a week. Yeah, we've been doing this all unpaid the last 8 months. We haven't even salaried ourselves. There was even no guarantee that we would get any investment from investors. So like, this could have just legitimately been 8 months of 7 days a week, you know, 14 hours a day for zero money.
Right.
So it's very kind of high risk. Anyway.
and probably a little bit rewarding now that you are
Yeah.
at least have something to show for it, right?
Yeah.
It's really cool.
It gets cooler and cooler every month. Like, if you guys want to be part of the ride, it is
It's
a
fun.
roller coaster, and it's
Yes.
pretty awesome. So anyway.
So another set of questions that seem to have been asked a lot are based on your Unreal Engine. You know, you guys are using Unreal Engine 4, to my knowledge, right? And a lot of people are saying that most of these assets are basically just, you know, what's already in the library. How do you what original code are you going to be doing as opposed to just what's already in the the Unreal Engine 4 library already?
So that's the entire game itself is custom. The multiplayer is custom. The gameplay is custom. Like, our kind of whole philosophy about this is like, don't reinvent the wheel. Like, if we can spend money to leverage the work that other developers have
Support fellow
done.
developers.
Yeah, exactly. It's like what is with this? Like, oh, there's this Unreal Engine marketplace, and it's
You
like
shouldn't use it.
taboo to, like, you know, support your fellow developer and leverage it in your own game. Like, that doesn't make any sense. The only thing that matters is, like, can you get this out to the players faster? So instead of like making a different mannequin for our pre-alpha, like
we left the mannequin in as a wink and a nod to our fellow developers.
they didn't like it. They did not think it was a funny joke.
Yeah, a lot of people didn't like that.
Yeah, anyway.
Miscalculation.
Yeah, we've spent all of our time instead on the gameplay, on the multiplayer, making sure it scales, making sure the experience is as good as possible, not making sure you had a different leg when you look down at yourself. I think it's just a very wrong set of priorities. If you're like a scrappy development team of 3 people, like, you need to leverage everything you can and go as fast as you possibly can. So, yeah, I mean, to other people that have taken 15 years to get to the same point that we've gotten in 8 months, like, be more ruthless. Only do your most important things. Leverage other people's work. It's not something to be looked down upon. Yeah,
I mean, especially, I want to sort of like dig into like our feeling about using the UE assets was that there's a marketplace out there of people who, like us, love games, and they just want to make these things that they would love to see in games. And we're in very good contact with someone we hope to hire, who made a plugin, and they were super proud that we were using their plugin in our game. And that was a really cool moment for us. And that was before I went and made the alpha trailer. And so the thought going through my head when making the alpha trailer was, wow, I really hope that people who made these things see them and like, oh, they're going to be used in a game. Yeah. Finally.
Yeah, actually, we used a different plugin, and I was in contact with the developer trying to get help. And like, these people, not even from the financial side, though obviously they want you to support their livelihood. Right. They just want you to take what they've worked on and make it into a really cool game to, go finish that mile. Like, there's nothing more depressing than working on something for months and having no one use it. So like the whole mentality about like not using Unreal Engine plugins, it's wrong from like so many reasons.
Yeah, so basically it's like instead of redesigning yourself, you're using something that's already there and then manipulating it essentially to work with your game. So you don't have to do the whole 12 months of development, you only have the 2 months of development.
Of integration.
Well, integration, right.
And that and 2 more things, which are, one of the things that we're hoping to do and we're building towards is enabling players to make their own things in game. And so for us, and I think I touched a little bit on it in the Kickstarter, it doesn't make sense for us to be super hardline about our art direction per se, because we don't want to be police. We don't want to go to the player who makes some incredible thing and they just want to see it in the world, and when they place it down it says it needs to be under review because it doesn't fit our style or something like that. And so the reason why we intentionally portrayed DreamWorld as being eclectic, as you can go from Planet Doom to like Planet Toy Box, like that kind of
every dream one world.
With everyone going out there, and you said you were talking about how you want, like, we don't want to police everyone, right? So another issue is what's going to be designed with your free ability to design whatever you want with male anatomies, we'll just say.
What you talking about?
How are we going? Is there going to be a way to like not have that in the game, or is it you're just going to have to change the rating associated with it?
Yeah. So we were just talking about this yesterday, and we've talked about it so many times before. But one of the solutions that we've come up with is whenever somebody makes something new, and that's going to be through the item creator interface. And this is, I know the problem is multifaceted, so right. I'll sort of try to go through them. But every time they make an item, they have to designate whether or not it's NSFW. And if it truly is NSFW and they mark it not NSFW, they get a strike or we just kick them out. And if they do mark it NSFW, then for players who are maybe under a certain age, they will not be able to see it. It will just, there will be a filter and it'll maybe just pixelate it, or it just won't show up at all. Something like that.
There's also, you know, the full scale version of this, which is like Facebook has this exact issue, and you end up doing content moderation through machine learning, which is not trivial, but it's also a very understood problem. For anyone that's not familiar with machine learning, it's exactly what it sounds like. You tell a computer like, hey, this is not safe for work. Yeah. This is, and over time it just figures it out. Yeah. And then you just like run all the content through that, and it, you know, says like, yeah, this looks inappropriate. Yeah.
This looks a little sus.
You don't need to have it make the decision in itself. Like, the thing is, it can just flag things for human reviewers. That is exactly what Facebook does to moderate their own content. So that's kind of the state of the art. But we're hoping we don't get there and it doesn't become the biggest issue. But like, it is a known problem about letting humans do whatever they want.
Yes.
And that is the state of the art solution to it.
So along with that, this is kind of on the same lines. A lot of people are actually concerned about griefing bases, since it is a, you know, completely moldable area. A group of like say 50 or 100 people could come and surround an area that is protected by a like I guess you call them pylons, I think is what you're gonna call them, like safe areas. They could just basically just dig like a trench like 500 feet deep and they could never leave the area. Is there like,
which would be hilarious, by
yeah, yeah. It would be kind of funny, but it would suck for that one person, right?
Yeah, so
how do you plan to like prevent such like issues to like, I guess someone could do it around the entire city per se. So how would you prevent like this thing?
Do you mind if I take this one?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. So with regards to the city, for example, the city is going to be massive. And the way that we're conceptualizing it right now is that the city sits on top of a huge plateau, and the plateau is even more massive. And there's a waving field of grain, and then there's a huge forest, and then you get the sheer cliffs of the plateau. And so this thing in real world miles would probably be hundreds of miles in circumference. And so anyone who wants to dig a 500 foot deep trench for hundreds of miles, hats off to you, first of all. Second of all, people will be able to use mounts to get over it. People will be able to build over it. So
there's also a very important point for anyone that hasn't played. Like, it uses a resource system. So I don't think you can actually collect enough resources to actually do this. Even if you had the entire player base, like, so it's not like everything is instantly changeable just like this.
Right.
You know, part of the reason there is resources, and you can think of it less as like creative mode from Minecraft and more survival mode, is that's kind of the only way you can have a massive multiplayer world. Like, there's the reason on planet Earth you don't get unlimited resources, because you just like, you can't have the entire population do that. There's like no way they'd coexist like that. And so there's pretty much no way you'd do that around the main city. In terms of like doing that around like smaller people's areas, like the TLDR is like, we haven't seen it yet, so it's hard for us to say like what is the perfect fix, but like, we update this game every freaking week. Like, I have no doubt that we'll implement various systems to improve it.
And I mean, as incredibly smart as we are, like, our player base is way smarter. Way smarter.
Yeah.
So like,
yeah.
Part of the fun is playing
all the time.
Yeah, part of the fun is almost playing cat and mouse with the devs, where you have a sandbox world and you just do something that's like, oh, makes us pull our hair out, and then we go in and we try and fix it, and it's actually pretty good natured. One of our moderators, Jack, is infamous for breaking the game almost
incredible.
Every week.
It's incredible.
And like, as long as you guys are good natured and like at the end of the day, like, help us make the game and like fix the bugs, like, that's honestly like part of the fun. Even part of the fun of like getting in alpha is like, and even playing in a sandbox game is like some of the situations you can get in are so ridiculous that it's almost just engaging in itself.
Yeah. Well, do you guys have any additional information that you wanted to share with anyone else who's watching, who decided to watch for the whole 30 minutes of this video?
Wow, has it been 30 minutes?
It's been 30 minutes, yeah.
I think just thank you. I bet you a lot of people from our community on Discord are going to be watching this. I know that maybe thousands of other people who are skeptical of what we're making right now will be watching this, and to all, thank you. We're really excited about DreamWorld, and we're really excited for where this is going, and we would love to have you along for the ride. Just come pop in the Discord is what I mean, and yeah, if you have any questions, please shoot them our way.
Get pumped. This is going to be fun.
Thank you guys for joining me. I hope this answers a lot of your guys' questions that you guys had about this company that's starting up and this game DreamWorld. Like we said in other videos, the Kickstarter link is going to be down below. It still goes through through April. And hopefully, if you guys want to back it, there are several different tiers, and you do get special privileges. Like, you can actually get a mount at some of the tiers. That will be only for those who are getting the Kickstarter bonuses. They will not be available for anyone else, if I'm correct, right?
That's correct.
All right. So thank you guys for joining me.
Thank you for having us.
You're welcome. And thank you everyone else for who's watching. And until the next one, guys, peace out.